Last week's game was the most watched London game ever, and it was the third most watched international game of all time, behind the Chiefs-Dolphins game in Germany and then the Dublin game 2 weeks ago. And here's a stat for you, Liam. Carson Wentz's touchdown pass to Jordan Addison was the first ever game-winning touchdown with under a minute remaining in regulation or in overtime of an international game. That's crazy. That is crazy, putting that in perspective, because that's 40 London games. That's the 40th London game on Sunday. 51 games in the whole international series. Does it blow your mind that we've never had a game-winning touchdown within a minute?
Yeah, I think they can score enough points. The Broncos haven't been very good at all offensively this season. So, yeah, I think that's probably the key. And if you look at the statistics, they need to allow less than 21 points. Is that the statistic? I think Justin Fields is 0-26 for games where the other team has scored more than 21 points. So I guess in theory, if you look at it from that point of view, their goal will be hold the Broncos to 20, and then they might have a chance to win. But yeah, I think there's a few key parts. But they need to be good in the red zone, good against the run, and then run the ball well themselves, I think.
Yeah, we mentioned Bo Nix. He's struggled a little bit, which is a concern when the offensive line has been so good. It's allowed just 5 sacks. It's one of the best units in the league. His air yards per completion is incredibly low at 3.7 yards. And Next Gen Stats have his aggressive percentage at just 7.4%, which is only Jackson Darts is lower than that so far this year. So he's not been pushing football down the field by any means, and it's nearly half of what his number was last year as well. But last Sunday in the fourth quarter, he came alive.
Hello everyone, Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judah, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the 14-Yard NFL Podcast.
Last Sunday, the NFL returned to London, and the Minnesota Vikings extended their undefeated record in London to 5 games after Carson Wentz marched on the field in the final 2 minutes of the game and nicked the victory from the Browns with 25 seconds to go. The NFL International Series continues this week with the second of 3 games in London this Sunday, and it is also the third of 6 games in Europe this autumn as well. You're listening to the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast, and I'm your host, Sam Moores. And in this week's episode, I'll be looking ahead to the game at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this Sunday between the New York Jets and Denver Broncos. And joining me to do that will be a regular guest on the podcast over the last couple of years, a host of Go For Two podcasts on the network as well. And welcome back to the podcast, Liam Horsley, mate. It's your first time on since week one preview. How are you feeling about the season so far?
Mixed. The people know who I support. But no, I feel pretty good. I managed to go to America to watch one of the games, got tickets for the Rams and the Jags game. And there's a lot of one-win teams and a lot of teams that are not very good, a lot of teams that are good but not great. Power rankings are all over the place. I think it's quite exciting for if you think about yourself as a neutral. So yeah, it's been pretty good. Hopefully we get a good international game this weekend. Some of them haven't been the best so far, but hopefully we get a good one this weekend, and then the Jags one in a couple of weeks is good as well. But yeah, I feel relatively good, all things considering.
Yeah. Last week's game, I mean, I was a bit apprehensive about last week's game going into it, but I actually quite enjoyed it in the end. It was I'll go into both of the Spurs games, and I actually quite enjoyed the game. It's always nice when you have a game, a touchdown at the end of the game. That was always nice, and yeah, I mean, this game this week should be pretty good as well. And then the best game of the bunch is when we won at Wembley as well. So yeah, certainly got some fun games to come. As well as talking all things London games today, we also discussed a couple of the trades that have happened in the last couple of days as well. That 3 trades have gone down this week, and I'll also give my 5 must-have players in your lineup on Fantasy Gameday for their Week 6 Sunday Stars competition as well. If you're new to the app, you can actually get a free £7.50 bet when you sign up with the code FULL10. That's FULL10. There are 8 competitions on the app this week, including a special London game competition called London Ballers. New users will get the £7.50 in their account after deposit and enter their first lineup on the app or sign up with the code FULL10. Just remember to please gamble responsibly, and only if you're 18 or over and based in the UK and Northern Ireland. And as always, we'll finish the podcast by predicting every Week 6 game against the spread as well. Right. As we did last week, we'll begin the podcast by looking ahead to the London game, which is the second of 2 games to be played at Spurs this year. Last week's game was the most watched London game ever, and it was the third most watched international game of all time, behind the Chiefs-Dolphins game in Germany and then the Dublin game 2 weeks ago. And here's a stat for you, Liam. Carson Wentz's touchdown pass to Jordan Addison was the first ever game-winning touchdown with under a minute remaining in regulation or in overtime of an international game. That's crazy. That is crazy putting that into perspective, because that's 40 London games. That's the 40th London game on Sunday. 51 games in the whole international series. Does it blow your mind that we've never had a game-winning touchdown within a minute?
Yeah, that does. I guess there's not many. There's not many. I guess in general, there's a lot of field goals, isn't there? I guess in the last minutes, and I guess people that have gone to loads of games like me would say they've sent some bad teams over, so that helps. But yeah, I was pretty surprised. I wouldn't have guessed that if you'd have told me how many to say it was the first one ever. Especially the fact it's Carson Wentz holding a nice record in London is quite funny. I thought Eli Manning might have done it before, but I think that was maybe a field goal win towards the end of the game. But yeah, that is crazy. And Carson Wentz can take that record and be very happy with himself for a very good throw on Sunday.
Yeah, what did you make of the game last week overall?
Yeah, I think it was typical London chaos. I think I don't really know what it means, but it feels like the London games in particular invite the most chaos. There's missed field goals. There's weird incidents with players. We had last year. I think there was a bit of a fight on the field in one of the games. So I think it was chaotic, but I think it was one of the reasons it was chaotic because both defenses are good. Both defensive coordinators are very aggressive, and both quarterbacks, aren't great. Even though Carson played pretty well, despite getting hurt. Dylan Gabriel played relatively well for someone who's never played in the NFL before. But I think average to below average quarterbacks plus crazy aggressive defensive coordinators means some chaos. So yeah, I agree with you that I thought it might be a really bad game actually, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. But I'm looking forward to hopefully some better offenses coming over and playing. Like we've got 2 in a couple of weeks that'll be good. One of these on Sunday at least will be good. But yeah, Sunday was just fun London chaos as always.
And you've got the added running element of Justin Fields as well. Like you can take it off and run. Maybe the Broncos defense have been quite good against Russian quarterbacks over the last couple of years. I was looking into this the other day, but no, they've still got the the threat of Fields as well in that aspect. So yeah, it should be a really good game. Again, last week I said I was pleasantly surprised. I thought with all the Vikings injuries and the lack of firepower on the Browns offense, and obviously I love the defenses and the defense. That's why I was really excited about the game overall. But it was. I enjoyed it, especially the rise of ticket price as well. You want to make sure it's worth your money. It probably was just about worth the money in the end. It been interesting to see what happens with the crowd this week. It was a really sea of purple last week. It was, Vikings jerseys everywhere, which I find fascinating. Bear in mind, this is their third London game in 4 years. You would have thought the novelty might have worn off for Vikings fans, like it almost has for Jags fans. But and it was their 4th international game in 4 years as well. I think obviously included Dublin game as well. So it'll be interesting to see what the crowd is like. As both the Jets and the Broncos have played in London pretty recently as well. Obviously the Jets have played a couple of times in the last couple of years, and the Broncos played at Wembley. It's their first time at Spurs. They played a couple of games at Wembley. This game should be interesting because you've got a team that ended the Eagles' unbeaten run on Sunday, the Broncos, and they're going up against the only winless team in the NFL in the Jets. Both teams have won once in London, with Denver losing to the Niners in 2010 before beating the Jags in 2022 of Russell Wilson, whilst the Jets' own London win coming against the Dolphins in 2015, and that was the game that got Joe Philbin fired from Miami. New York actually did that to their own coach last year after losing to the Vikings in London this time last year. Robert Saleh was fired pretty much just a couple of days after landing, and 5 games into the Aaron Glenn-led Jets. What have you made of them so far this season?
Yeah, I think it's been a little bit disappointing. I think they've been unlucky in a few games. But yeah, defense hasn't looked as good as even last year, but that's not unheard of with new defensive coordinator. Obviously, Aaron Glenn doesn't call the plays. Steve Wilkes calls the plays.
Yeah.
So I think the defense has been a bit concerning. Offensive line's been pretty good, which is what you'd want. But anyone who's doing any sort of season preview said all year that there's no weapons on this team. And that's just what it is. The offense was never going to be great through the air. Justin Fields getting injured, I don't think helped because he played quite well in week 1 and then obviously loses momentum. And Tyrod Taylor comes back in, and now the offense is a bit kind of on the decline again, it feels like. So, Yeah, they're definitely not the worst team in football for me. Maybe not one of the worst 3 teams in football, but they're probably not as good as some people before the season thought they might be. And I think for me, it's just weapons and probably a defensive scheme that just doesn't fit what they've got. I mentioned it on our pod, but they play a lot of zone coverage, a lot of rotation in the secondary. Sauce Gardner just wants to follow someone man to man, and they don't let him do that. So it feels like they've kind of got a scheme that doesn't quite fit some of their star players. But again, it's the first year of the regime. I'll be very disappointed if we get any Aaron Glenn firing this season. I don't think any coach really should be one and done, especially if the players seem to be buying in, which these guys seem to be buying in. So, yeah, disappointed, but I don't think it's as bad as the record says it is.
No, I agree with you. I think the defense has been the biggest disappointment. I think it has been a bit more the same, which is hard to see because I think you can tell that Aaron Glenn is trying to set a culture there, but the same stuff's happening. I was really impressed with them the first week against the Steelers. I came out on the podcast and I said, "Oh, I think they might be the second best team in the AFC East." That's aged brilliantly, hasn't it? Because they've lost to they've lost.
You've got to stop getting hot takey about your own division. It never goes well for you on the pod.
I know. But no. I think they since then has been a bit of a mess. Really, they got out physical by the Dolphins somehow. That's bad when you get out physical by the Dolphins. And obviously the Patriots have just beaten the Bills as well, so that's gone terribly. And since the game against Pittsburgh, that was a one-score game. They've lost 2 more one-score games as well, and they've been handily beaten in their home games against the Bills and the Cowboys as well. And it was also the first defense in NFL history not to force a turnover in the first 5 games of a season as well, which is crazy. Now, luckily for the Jets, they face Bo Nix this week, who has had a fair few turnovers this season, and a Broncos team that surprisingly has a negative turnover differential because they were so good at that last year. This year they've turned the ball over quite a lot on offense. But I mean, surely for the Jets, that streak can't go on much longer, can it?
Yeah, and it's an international game where generally chaos, like I said earlier, seems to happen. Aaron Glenn's defenses in the past have forced turnovers pretty well as well. But I think anyone who follows the league and looks at anything statistical wise, turnovers are a little bit random. So the fact they've not got any in 5 games is probably more random than it is kind of any ability of the team. So they could force 3 turnovers on Sunday and that flips the script. Again, I'm not going to predict they will get a turnover because I think that's hard to do, but it wouldn't surprise me if they have a couple on Sunday. They've got some of the players on the defensive line and more in particular the linebackers that can force fumbles. And like you said, Bo Nix has thrown a couple away to the other team. So I think we could see one at the weekend, but it's something that Aaron Glenn will be looking at because normally his defenses, like I said, are a little bit more aggressive and punching the ball out and driving on interceptions and stuff, but they've been a bit more passive, I would say, through 5 weeks.
Yeah, as you said, strange things kind of happen in London games. If they were to find a way to win, the Jets, what would their path to victory be?
I hope they win. I'll be rooting for them to win. Their path to victory would be no turnovers from Justin Fields. Very good red zone offense. So every time they're in there, they score because they're not going to be in there loads. And probably I would say holding the Denver run game. I don't think they have to force turnovers. I think if they can just hold the Denver run game to average, I think they can score enough points. The Broncos haven't been very good at all offensively this season. So I think that's probably the key. And if you look at the statistics, they need to allow less than 21 points. Is that the statistic? I think Justin Fields is 0-26 for games where the other team has scored more than 21 points. Wow. So I guess in theory, if you look at it from that point of view, their goal will be hold the Broncos to 20, and then they might have a chance to win. But I think there's a few key parts. But they need to be good in the red zone, good against the run, and then run the ball well themselves, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they have been running the ball well. They had over 200 yards on the ground against the Dolphins and lost. It's rare you run 200 yards and lose a game, but they are capable of running the football. And Denver, they're a strange one. As you mentioned this year, the defense has been so good. They led the league in sacks and pressures. Nick Bonito's leading the league in sacks as well. He's having a great season. They also lead the league in success rate as well, so that they're great situationally. They're 4th in EPA per play, 3rd on 3rd down, best in the league on 4th down. They're this Broncos defense is great as expected, really carrying on from where it was last year. But the offense, it's hard to summarize what's going on with the offense. They've not necessarily looked bad, but I'm disappointed. I could say based on what we saw last year, I think they were better down the stretch last year, and they've added weapons to the offense this year. That's probably the most disappointing thing. We mentioned Bo Nix. He's struggled a little bit, which is a concern when the offensive line has been so good. It's allowed just 5 sacks. It's one of the best units in the league. His air yards per completion is incredibly low at 3.7 yards. And Next Gen Stats have his aggressive percentage of just 7.4%, which is only Jackson Darts is lower than that so far this year. So he's not been pushing the full football down the field by any means, and it's nearly half of what his number was last year as well. But last Sunday in the fourth quarter, he came alive as the Broncos came back from a 14-point deficit. They it was couple of nice throws to Cortland Sutton there to come back and beat the Eagles. Went 9 of 10 for 126 yards and a touchdown in the fourth quarter, leading the Broncos to 3 scoring drives and 3 opportunities as well. So something clicked for him last week. He looked more confident and he was able to push the ball down the field when it mattered. Which he's been really scared to do that. The rest of this year. I think we could see another big game for him in this week because this Jets pass defense sucks. You mentioned it earlier. Every week I'm seeing fire Steve Wilkes on social media, and only Dallas has a worse EPA per pass than the Jets so far this season. That's something because Matt Eberflus' defense is like generationally bad right now. Obviously, you were lower on Denver in preseason than I was. What have you made from them so far this year?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of what I thought. I'm not sure the weapons are that good. I don't mind Troy Franklin, but I don't think there's many good weapons on the team in comparison to other playoff teams, if that's what you're trying to judge them on. And I think it's just really Bo Nix's play. It just hasn't been as good. I think that's really what it comes down to. The run game hasn't been as good as people thought, but it's been statistically okay to good. So it's not been great, but it's still been fine. But I think the pass game just not been great. A year's film on Bo Nix, people are playing him differently. Last year was a lot of man coverage, one high, try and force him to make a play because people thought he couldn't do it. And then he was scrambling around and throwing the ball down the field. And now people are like, okay, let's sit in more deep shells and force him to have long drives and not make mistakes. And that's harder to do for a second-year quarterback. So, I just think he's not playing as well. And I think I heard Sean Payton say the offensive line isn't playing as well as it could for a unit that was like, second or third, I think, last year in pass rush win rate in terms of protection. I think it's more Bo Nix and a little bit on the offensive line, but they have also had a bit of an up and down schedule and had some weird games as well in there. So, I think they'll be fine, but they are kind of what I thought they would be. Very good defense, average offense, and then I thought they'd be like the 8 or 9 seeds, so just out. Maybe they'll be better than that now, but I'm still not quite as high on them.
But I say with the way the AFC has been this year, if you're 2 games above 500, you probably got a chance because everyone's it's a bit over the place at the minute. I think when it's gone to predicting the game, the Broncos are favored by 7.5 points, which is a big spread. But London games aren't particularly close sometimes, so I can see what it is. And if it was in Denver, it would be bigger. You'd like to say it's a neutral game. Which way are you going here?
It's my second podcast of the day. And I'm gonna still go with the Broncos. I think if the Jets start well, I think they can cover the spread. But I'm just a bit concerned about where the Jets are trending on defense. So I'll go for the Broncos to cover the spread just about.
Yeah, it's a tough one because London games are often low scoring. It's very rare that both teams will score above 20 points in a London game. So it is a tough one. I do think maybe the Jets can hang in within a score, but I think Denver will win the game, and I think it might be by 8 points. So I'm gonna go for Denver to cover the spread here, but I don't love it. I think Denver will win, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm confident on that. Okay, before we get on to predicting the rest of the week's games, there have been a few trades this week to talk about, and it's only 3 weeks or so until the trade deadline, so I thought it'd be fun to identify a few teams that could either be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline, and we'll talk about how some of these trades have happened as well. We'll start off by talking about Joe Flacco, who has been traded to Cincinnati just a week after being benched by the Browns, just a day after landing back in Ohio from London. With the way Jake Browning has played the last couple of weeks, well, until the fourth quarter last week anyway, he was actually pretty good in the fourth quarter last week, but until then he's played pretty badly, so I'm not really shocked by the decision to trade for a new quarterback. But the last couple of guests I've had on have said, "Oh, maybe Jameis Winston." We've thrown a few names out there, so I'm a bit surprised that Joe Flacco is a name that they've gone for. This is the first in-division QB trade since 2010, and it's only the third ever, so obviously it rarely happens. This is the first trade between the Bengals and the Browns since Cleveland returned to the league in 1999 as well. Since they go up a fifth and got sixth back, so they didn't have to really give much at all for Flacco. What do you make of the move?
Yeah, I think he'll probably be better than Browning, personally. But yeah, I'd say it's just a bit pointless, to be honest. I think you either go aggressive if you think you can make the playoffs and be a 7 seed, and then you hope Joe Burrow's back. But I think their original story around how long it'll be out was a bit optimistic. From when you read experts, it feels like it's going to be much longer than what they said. But yeah, I think you either go aggressive or you either don't bother or go super young and see if you can find a fun backup to replace Browning in the future. I don't see the point really, because I think they've got like 1, 2, 3, 4% better at best, but it's not going to get them to the playoffs. You know what I mean? Whereas if they'd have gone Kirk Cousins, yeah, it would have cost them more, but they might make the playoffs. Or if they go Joe Milton, they've got maybe a fun backup in the future. So I just don't really get it, to be honest. I think it's fine for the Browns. The Browns just want extra draft capital, move up a little bit, which we'll probably talk about their other trade in a minute. But yeah, I'm not sure it was the right thing to do. They do get better, but it's not good enough to do anything, I don't think. So I think they've just probably hampered their draft position for no reason, really.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's like I do wonder if there's a bit of pressure on head coach and GM, because the last couple of weeks I feel like I've seen a lot more negative things written about Zach Taylor than I ever have before, if I'm being honest. It feels like a lot of people were always out on Zach Taylor, but it's starting to feel like that's starting to get more and more. And the play calling's not exactly been great compared to what it was a couple of years ago when they had Browning, where he almost led them to the playoffs. It's a fascinating one. How do you feel about Zach Taylor at this point?
Well, I don't love the Bengals, so I feel like he should stay in a job forever. But no, I didn't really. I wasn't really a big fan of him. I was a little bit wrong. I thought he was a really bad coach, but I think I was wrong on that because he's shown that he will adapt to certain situations. He's got a quarterback that only wants to play one type of offense, and he's tried his best to add a fullback here, go to 2 tight ends here. He's tried to make small tweaks to improve it because he knows Joe Burrow wants to play one way. So I think he's probably a little bit better at that than I gave him credit for. But I'm not sure overall offensive scheme design wise, and I think it's a hard place to coach because half the players are annoyed about their contract. So give him some grace with that. But I'm not sure he's the best head coach, and I think it's probably time for a bit of a new voice there if they don't make the playoffs again. But I'd say it's probably way more on the GM and the ownership group than it is on Zach Taylor in particular. But I think it wouldn't surprise me if they don't make the playoffs, which I don't think they will. He'll probably be a fall guy, I would imagine, because Jamar Chase definitely seems frustrated with him, and yeah, you don't want your star players to fall out with your head coach.
Yeah, I was talking about the state of the AFC earlier. If Flacco can maybe go 4-4, optimistically, Burrow might be out longer than that. But say he does come back in mid-December, right? With I think 4-4 is probably doable. I think they could get into the playoffs. It's just so it does make sense in a way, but I just
I don't think it's doable with that defense and that offensive line now.
Do you not? No.
Nah, I don't think it's. I think if they had Joe Burrow now, you'd be a bit like, still think it's going to be a tough road to get into the.
See, the thing is, they've got those wins already. If they were where they were last year,
yeah.
I'd agree with you fully. But they've already got a couple wins under the belt already.
But they have to finish above at least one of the Ravens and Steelers. It's just like. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think the Ravens do come into this. Say the Ravens completely tank it, then obviously. But if the Ravens stop winning a few games, then it is a lot harder for the Bengals. The Ravens do come into it completely, and for Cleveland, it does make sense for Cleveland. Obviously, they can now take a proper look at both of these quarterbacks. I think we'll see what happens there. Maybe they're bringing a second guy to be in front of the Shador because I feel like that kind of might happen. But what it tells me is that the Cleveland regime think their jobs are safe. Which I'm not surprised by because I think Kevin Stefanski is a great coach. Like, if we're being honest, I do think he's a great coach. I think he's a pretty good coach we've had to work with. I think it would be harsh to fire him. I think Andrew Berry a bit different. I don't know how I feel about him. He's had a very, odd time as GM. Let's just say that. But no, I think what it tells me, I think they think their jobs are safe. And here's a stat for Packers. Should the Bengals beat the Packers on Sunday, he'll become the first quarterback to beat a team twice in the same season with different teams since 1962. So that's a nice one there. Obviously, it's rare.
It'll be a bad loss for the Packers.
yeah. Then they obviously go underneath 500, and that would be a bad loss for the Packers. Obviously, there was another trade that you mentioned earlier last night. I think it's an interesting one. They're at it again last night. The Browns trading with the Jags again after trading with them on draft night in the Travis Hunter Mason Graham trade. So starting cornerback Greg Newsome has been traded to the Jags in exchange for Jags cornerback Tyson Campbell. By the sounds of things, this is kind of a scheme thing for Jacksonville, and kind of a Browns don't want to pay Greg Newsome the money that he wants. To be honest with you, that's what it sounds like. What was your reaction when you woke up to this trade?
I thought it was a very weird trade, and I think the Jags have already paid obviously Tyson Campbell so much of his contract up front, and now he's just not going to be on the team, and they've got dead cap for the next 3 seasons, I think, and then they've got to pay. Well, they've either got to release not keep Greg Newsome, and then it's a bit of a weirder trade, or they probably will pay Greg Newsome because that's the only thing that makes sense here. And then they're paying almost an extra, I think it's $6 million a year on Newsome's deal just to not have Tyson Campbell. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think it was a bit of a weird move for them. In terms of the Browns, I think it's a great move because you've got Tyson Campbell, who's maybe slightly worse than Greg Newsome in a neutral scenario. But going to be half the cost because they've already paid so much of his contract. So I think for the Browns, it's a really good deal. And I think we're going to keep seeing them trade people and make moves to get ready for next season, where they've already got a lot of draft picks. But for the Jags, I'd have to see what Newsome's contract looks like in the summer to really judge it. But I think it was a bit of a weird move. Now, if it is for scheme reasons, they'll know more than me about their own scheme. But just not a great position for them from the previous GM to pay this guy big money and then let him go in a trade like this. So I was very confused, but I think it is a good deal for the Browns, and it could work out for the Jags if Greg Newsome plays better than he has through 5 weeks.
We've also got one final trade, this one between the two Harbaugh brothers, with the Ravens sending a Duffet Owe, who actually led the team in pressures and a 7th round pick in 2027 to the Chargers in exchange for Alohi Gilman, who has started all 5 games at safety for the Chargers, and a 5th round pick in next year's draft. The Ravens get some sort of much needed secondary help. We also get Cole Hamilton back this week as well, so their secondary should look a lot better soon. Also, Chargers add some pass rush whilst they're waiting for Khalil Mack to come back from injury. They've only really got two below 2 as well. That's what they had in terms of the pass rush the last couple of weeks. This move was interesting to say the least, wasn't it?
Yeah, this was another weird one. But the weird trades are coming first, and then we'll get some bigger trades in there. Before the deadline on the 4th or 3rd, whichever it is. I actually really like this trade for the Chargers, depending on what happens with Owe's future. Gilman's never really impressed me. He's someone that the Chiefs, I only watch the Chargers play loads when they play the Chiefs, obviously. And that's someone that, Andy Reid tends to target. And he played pretty well in week 1. Owe, I think's a fine pass rusher. Definitely disappointed. Goes through peaks and troughs. He'll have 3 weeks in a row with great pressure rate, and then you won't see him for 2 weeks. That's just kind of who he is.
He's led the team pressures and not had a sack. So
finishing. Finishing is an issue for him. He is very good in terms of elite bend. I think it makes sense for the Chargers. I think he would be their 3rd pass rusher when everyone's healthy, and I think that's a role that fits him perfectly. I really don't love it for the Ravens. I think maybe it's more for. I'm not saying it's more for next year, but if they just tank, it makes a little bit more sense. But in the playoffs, their issue's been getting pressure. Their injuries are only short term. They signed CJ Gardner-Johnson to the practice squad, who's just as good, if not slightly better. And Carl Hamilton's going to play back. They only play 2 safeties on 60% of their plays. they've already got two safeties
Yeah.
there. So I
Is it
just
because
think
they
it's the same one.
obviously they play better when Cole Hamilton's closer to the line of scrimmage? Is that part of it as well? Whereas if they can
Yeah,
get two,
maybe. But CJ, I think, could do the Gilman stuff, and then I don't think you should make a trade just because you've got some of these players are only injured for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They're not if they're out for the season. I think it's a different story. But yeah, I think it's just a bit of a weird move. I think if they get in the playoffs, there'll be game or games where they're playing Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, and the commentator's like, "Oh God, they've got forever to throw back there. They just get the secondary's getting cut up because no one can get any pressure." But you never know. The Ravens on deadline day might trade for a really good pass rusher, and that's part of the bigger picture, maybe. But
there's going to be quite a few
it's a bit of a
available.
weird move,
So.
a bit reactive, I think, for me.
Yeah, certainly, and a lot of pressure now on Mike Green, obviously the rookie for the Ravens as well. So we'll see what happens there. And obviously, we're going to sort of talking about teams that are buying the Chargers. Like again, I agree with you. It makes a lot of sense for them. They're kind of in a Super Bowl window now. Hopefully, Joe Alt comes back soon, and then they can get their offensive line back, and then they can start getting in a groove. But for the first 3 weeks, they're really, really good. And then again, I won't really be surprised to see the Chargers make another move. Maybe it be on that offensive line. Obviously, they've benched Bradley Bozeman in the centre as well, so maybe they do something there. All right running back as well, obviously with Murray and Hampton out on IR, and obviously Najee Harris out for the season. Another team that's been talked about as sort of potential buyers of the Chiefs. Is there any position you can see them making a move at?
Yeah, they'll definitely make a move. Brett Veach makes a move or two every single season, so they're very similar to the Bills and the Eagles. All three of those teams will make a trade, and one of them will probably help them. One of those teams get to a title game. That's just the way it always seems to go. But yeah, I think the Chiefs would probably trade for a running back. I think the fans would want them to trade for a pass rusher. But if we talk about any players, I don't think there's many pass rushers that will become available. There's one name we'll get to later, maybe. I guess that intrigues me. But yeah, I think they'll probably trade for one of those two positions. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was as a running back. Logic says to trade for defense, but the Chiefs normally favor offense as a franchise. So I think they'll do one, if not two trades on defensive end or defensive tackle, or more likely for me, I think running back. There's a few out there, I think.
So I disagree with you. I think there are pass rushers there. I think it's just a lot of the time that they're in contract. They're in quite big, and there's taking on the contracts is the problem. Like, I think actually, speaking of the Chiefs, there's probably three guys I can see from the Dolphins that kind of could be moved to the Chiefs.
The Dolphins pass rushers are the ones that intrigue me.
Yeah. And then Jalen Wright, running back as well. I think I've seen him talked about with the Chiefs as well a couple of times. I think that's quite an interesting one as well.
You couldn't get a more perfect trade candidate for the Chiefs than Alvin Kamara, I'm afraid. So
yeah. Well, exactly. I was going to mention him earlier on as well.
Yeah, if they trade for a running back, the fans want Breece Hall. I feel like Alvin Kamara is a perfect Chief because he's a bit older. Probably not the smartest trade in the world, but will probably be very, very good for one season. They've
just given him a contract as well. That's the other thing about Kamara.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, so he's already under contract. You don't have to then go and pay him. But you're right. The Dolphins guys do intrigue me, and I think a couple of the good teams like the Eagles as well will also sniff around the Dolphins pass rushers, especially probably Chubb.
Yeah, Chubb's. Well, the Dolphins have invested a lot in both Chubb and Phillips. I think when they've been healthy, they've been good. It's just injuries really. Chubb missed all of last season, recovering from an ACL. Jalen Phillips had the last 2 seasons ended by an ACL and an Achilles. You think
they'll trade Phillips? I don't think. I thought for maybe more Chubb. He's older.
Yeah, I don't know. Phillips is a weird one. Like, I think again, Chubb would make sense. With Chop Robinson being there, I can see both eventually going. I don't think Chubb and Phillips have got much of a future in Miami, if I'm being honest. Maybe not both go this trade deadline, but this
deadline, yeah.
Yeah, but I can see both. I don't think most of them.
I'd love Jalen Phillips. I think he's great, but
yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Everyone loves him, but he's right with so many pressures. But the problem is he's not being able to stay healthy. Like he should have 2 or 3 double-digit sack seasons by now. But the problem is he's had 3 seasons ended by injury. So so that's been the problem. Chubb, like he is a double-digit sack guy. He got double-digit sacks before. He got injured in 2023. He's already put up 4 sacks this season as well. So he's already almost half his way there as well. And that is an interesting one. And again, like with Chop Robinson being there, again he's not played well, but obviously they've invested in him as well, so it makes sense. for those guys to be looked at, because a lot of teams in the league want pass rush. And then Jalen Wright again. I mentioned him as another one because the Dolphins traded with the Eagles a 3rd round pick to move up with from last year, and he's not the chance to play really. And then he didn't look great when he wasn't lined up, and then he's been replaced by Ollie Gordon now. He's different type of running back, obviously a bigger running back, and
What about
so there's a speed. Yeah, exactly.
Achan's name gets mentioned out there for trades
Today,
as well.
yeah, a lot of the time today I've seen him as well, and that's an interesting one because I feel like he's going to have to be paid, but I feel like that's the one piece the Dolphins can look at to build around. But the problem is he's a running back, so again it does make sense totally as well. So again, you've got plenty of guys that you could be moved. You mentioned Alvin Kamara again, like the Saints are going to be sellers with how Kendre Miller's been looking as well. It looks like they could be ready to move on. They're giving him more and more of the football, despite extending Kamara pretty recently. Chris Olave is another one that I've seen mentioned as well, getting a bit of buzz. Obviously they've got a few receivers there, but Olave is the one that everyone wants because of his age. And a few other guys to watch. You could say Jacoby Myers as well. He's obviously already requested a trade from the Raiders. Kayvon Thibodeau as well from the Giants. Again,
Thibodeau's a great shout.
Yeah, he was talked about around the draft, and obviously after the Abdul Carter pick, that was the 3 pass rushers there. So he's another one. Jameis Winston, as we mentioned earlier, maybe a team's desperate and more because the Giants probably don't want to move on from him. But if there's an offer, that could be there. And
They'll
then
probably
David
trade one of the
Njoku's
quarterbacks.
Yeah,
they'll trade one of the
exactly.
two. You'd imagine.
Do you think?
I think so. Yeah, if you're them, it makes sense, and they get a free draft pick.
Yeah, true. And then David Njoku is another one that's interesting because obviously there's the emergence of Harold Fannin. He's going into a contract year as well. I can't really. If you've already got a tight end that's playing as well as Fannin is, I don't really think they're going to pay Njoku again. So he's another one that's been that has been mentioned. Are there any sort of teams that you can see fitting these guys who mentioned?
We mentioned a few guys there. The Jags would probably fit David Njoku pretty well. Brendan Strange obviously just got hurt.
Yeah.
Chargers would probably fit David Njoku well as well, I would say. In terms of, I can't remember who the other guy we mentioned was then. Jacoby Myers, that's an interesting one. I feel like he's just one of those players where whoever he gets traded to is not the team you'll guess. It could be literally anyone. I think the Jets probably need wide receiver help, but why would you bother in a year if you're like 1-6? It just doesn't make sense. But yeah, I can see Jacoby Myers going to another bad team, to be honest, for a team that needs a wide receiver, maybe like a Titans for a young quarterback, so they get more weapons for Cam Ward. Alvin
Chris
Kamara.
Olave and Chris Olave is the other one, and then Kayvon Thibodeau as well. The other two we already mentioned.
Yeah, Thibodeau I think is a typical Eagles or Chiefs type, Bills type signing. I think he'll go to a good team for a bit of a reclamation project. Whereas Olave, I'm not really sure, to be honest. I feel like they would probably more likely trade Shaheed than Olave just because of how good Olave is. And I just think people want to take a risk on those concussions, or they want to see him finish a year before he gets traded, maybe. But again, I think we're all looking at the same teams. And we're probably looking for, unfortunately, a season-ending injury that might happen in the next couple of weeks that makes one of these guys a bit more desirable. But the name we haven't spoken about that I was interested in, I think they should 1,000% do this as well. Trey Hendrickson should definitely get traded at the deadline. There's already a deal done where they've done a 1-year deal. I don't know if it got a no trade clause or not, but obviously Trey Hendrickson mentioned they had discussions of, not no trade, no tag. He mentioned that there's kind of an agreement. This is it. Basically, it's either a new contract at the end of the year or a new team. There's not going to be another tag situation. That's what he said. And it just feels like if they are 3 and whatever by the deadline, and they're clearly out, and they know internally that Burrow's not going to come back, why would you not trade Trey Hendrickson for a 2nd round pick and just think about next season or a 3rd round pick? It just makes all the sense in the world. And I think they probably wouldn't trade him to the Chiefs, but that'd be my perfect type of player for Spags. But yeah, a team like the Eagles or the Rams just fits perfectly for Trey Hendrickson. I think there'll be one big pass rusher move probably to one of those couple of teams, or a Bills, like someone who's trying to win a Super Bowl this season.
You're listening to the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast, and we're really excited to announce that we'll be teaming up with Fantasy Gameday for the podcast this season, which is the very first NFL daily fantasy app made exclusively for us Brits and created by UK fans. To celebrate the partnership, they've given us a special offer to share with you, our audience, where if you sign up with a promo code FULL10, that's FULL10, you'll get a free game credit added to your account when you enter your first lineup. Every week there are dozens of competitions to get involved in, with entry fees starting from just £3, and there are big prizes to be won. If you're like me, you love playing fantasy football and love having someone to root for in Red Zone when your team aren't playing on a Sunday, this app is perfect for you. That's Fantasy Gameday, the only daily fantasy app built for UK NFL fans. And just a quick reminder, please gamble responsibly, and only if you're 18 and over and based in the UK and Northern Ireland. Next up on the podcast is DFS Stars, which is our weekly daily fantasy segment brought to you by our partners for the podcast, Fantasy Gameday, the UK's dedicated daily fantasy app. Before I give you my picks for week 6, I just wanted to let you know how I did last week. It was a decent week, but not as good as the week before. Week 4, we smashed it. This week, starting with the captain, Devon Achan, that wasn't the best choice at all, really. It's probably my worst pick of the week, maybe. He did get a lot of targets, and he did get a receiving TD, so he wasn't all bad. The Dolphins really struggled to run the football with Achan averaging just 1.6 yards on his 10 carries. His RB14 for the week because of his receptions, because of his touchdown, so it wasn't terrible. So maybe it wasn't my worst pick of the week, but there were definitely better options for them for the captain option, obviously, with the double points. Dak Prescott at quarterback was a huge success. On the other hand, he was brilliant last week and in the week as QB3 after a 4-touchdown day against the Jets defense. Prescott was only half a point behind CJ Stroud, who actually was the highest scoring quarterback in fantasy on Sunday, so he pretty much couldn't have got any better than Dak. That was brilliant. And it was great. All the other positions except from running back. Running back was a big struggle for me, unfortunately. Obviously, Achan at captain, and I picked Woody Marks. He only got 8 touches against the Ravens after getting 22 in the previous week. I went a bit ambitious there. I thought, maybe he's going to take over from Nick Chubb, but no, Nick Chubb got the majority of the ball against the Ravens. He was RB52, so that was a bad pick. But the rest of the week was really good. Garrett Wilson had another solid week. He was awesome. He remained was 5 for the season after a solid 19-point outing last week, catching 6 balls, 71 yards and a TD. And then Darren Waller at tight end, he was a home run pick in the end for me, especially for his value at 2. He caught 5 balls for 78 yards and a touchdown. It's crazy to me that he's already tight end 24 after just 2 games. It shows how unreliable the position has been for fantasy this year. So my 2 running backs let me down, unfortunately, but overall it was a pretty decent week for me. I doubt I would have won you guys any money, but Wilson, Prescott and Waller will continue to be good picks next couple of weeks. I think they've all got really good matchups this week as well, but neither of the 3 are in my picks for the week. But before I give you my 5 DFS stars for week 6, I just wanted to remind you that you can actually get a free entry on Fantasy Gameday with the code FULL10 throughout the season. Now, so if you're a new user, you can get a free game credit added to your account when you enter your first lineup on the app, and a deposit on the app too, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. I think it's a great app, and I really enjoyed using it this last couple weeks. Right. Here are 5 players that you need to have in your daily fantasy lineup on Fantasy Gameday this Sunday. As always, I'll start with my captain, which is a player in your lineup that gets double points. I'm going expensive again for this week, as words a couple of times now. I'm going for Puka Nacua. He is the second most expensive player this week behind Jonathan Taylor, but I think he's more than worth a gamble with the amount of targets that he is getting. He is already the first ever player with at least 10 receptions in 4 out of his first 5 games to start the season, and this game against the Ravens can become the first ever player with at least 8 receptions in each of their first 6 games to start a season. Only the Cowboys have allowed more fantasy points to receivers than the Ravens this season, so I absolutely love the matchup for Nacua this week. My quarterback pick for the week is Justin Herbert. I think it's a bit of a gamble personally, because obviously he's not been productive in terms of numbers the last couple of weeks or wins. In fact, the Chargers offense is banged up right now, but I look at their matchup against the Dolphins and I fancy Herbert to have a day. Only the Ravens and the Cowboys have been better opponents for quarterbacks in Miami in fantasy this season. So, history tells us that he's going to score some points in fantasy. And I think the Chargers offense will be all Herbert on Sunday because of those injuries. That probably makes him worth the price of 7,400, which makes him the sixth most expensive quarterback, because he's starting to use his legs more as well. And Miami has allowed the most rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks in the NFL this season. So there's that element too. That Miami defense is terrible, and with the injuries that went about for the Chargers and the injuries in the offensive line, I think it's going to be all Herbert. Normally when players are injured on the offense, he throws the ball 40-50 times. We might see the same again, and that's only a good thing for fantasy. So yeah, I'm going to go Justin Herbert this week. I think he's going to see a lot of the ball on Sunday. My running back pick for the week is Rachaad White of the Bucks. It sounds like Bucky Irving will be out for another week, so White is going to get a lot of the ball for Tampa Bay again this week after his 18 touches and 2 touchdowns last week. In Irving's absence, White was RB7 last week, being on the field for 80% of the snaps last week, which is the fourth most among running backs in the NFL in week 5. And White is only the 22nd most expensive running back as well, which I think makes him a steal with how much he is going to touch the ball. 4,400 is a bargain for him. Receiver, we've had a bit of success with this strategy, so I'm going to do it again. I've mentioned a few times now how bad the Dallas defense is, especially in defending the pass. So my receiver pick for the week is Taylor McMillan. Carolina are going to need to pass the football to catch up with this Cowboys offense, which is incredible. Dak Prescott's probably my MVP through 5 weeks. So McMillan is going to be seeing a lot of the ball because he is Bryce Young's #1 target. He's averaging a solid 9 targets a game, and he should find some success against the Dallas defense. So I think he is great value because we're probably heading for another Cowboys shootout. So yeah, at just 5,400, I think he's worth the gamble, even though he hasn't found the end zone so far this year. I love the value as a 16th most expensive running back. I love the value as the 16th most expensive receiver for Taylor McMillan because he has the 8th most targets in the NFL at the receiver position this season. And then finally, I'm going for a bit of a bold one with my tight end pick. I'm going for Jake Tonjes, who everyone's sort of started memeing over the last couple of weeks because he's playing well. It sounds like George Kittle will miss another week for the Niners, so I do love Tonjes here, going up against a Bucs defense, which has hemorrhaged some points this year. Tonjes has quietly caught 3 touchdowns already this season. He had 11 targets last week, and they win over the Rams. And I think it's a great value pick at just 2,400, makes him the 19th most expensive tight end, and that's a bargain because Tonjes has been a clutch player. Whoever's played a quarterback for the Niners, whether it's been Matt Jones or Brock Purdy to start the season, he is tight end 8 in fantasy so far this year, and he has the 11th most targets at the position as well. So the value is certainly there for Jake Tonjes this weekend. Right, that wraps up my 5 picks for this week's Sunday Stars competition on Fantasy Gameday. My 5 DFS stars for the week are Puka Nacua, Justin Herbert, Rachaad White, Taylor McMillan, and Jake Tonjes. Best of luck if you're playing along, and don't forget, new users can still sign up with the code FULL10 to get that £10.50 game entry for free. Just remember to please gamble responsibly, and only if you're over 18 and based in the UK and Northern Ireland. Right, let's finish the podcast by predicting the remaining games for this week against the spread. As we've now done 5 weeks of picking, I thought I'd update you all on the state of play. So far, I am beating the guests this season. I'm sitting in the lead at 36 and 41, which isn't great, but it's still in the lead. The guests are a combined 32 and 45, so the guests haven't had a great year. So you'll be delighted to know.
Did you beat me in week 1?
No, we both went 9 and 7 in week 1. So
see, I'm both 9 and 7. That's what I need this week. 9 and 7.
Yeah. Well, your 9 and 7 is the best guess we've had on the podcast so far this season. Of the 5, that was the best. That was the best result. No other guest has a winning record. So yeah. So that, you've done pretty well there. Yeah. Before we get on to Sunday's games, we'll go back. We'll start with tonight's Thursday night football game in New York. The Giants host the Eagles. The 1-4 Giants, the 4-1 Eagles. The Eagles are 7.5 point favourites going to MetLife Stadium. Obviously, this is Jackson Dart's first primetime game, so a bit of an added element there. The Eagles coming off their first loss for the season onto a short week is an interesting scenario as well. I probably will stay up and watch this game. I think it could be interesting. 7.5 points. Which way are you going here?
Yeah, I've gone for the Eagles. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I think it'd be an ugly game, so it wouldn't surprise me if we get a random Giants cover. But yeah, I just think if you give me the 2 options with the Jackson Dart, how he looked against the Saints, I've got to go with the Eagles. But yeah, Eagles' offense is not good. There's not many metrics.
Offensive line's been struggling. That's the thing. That's a shocking thing. The offensive line's not been great.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Jalen's not been very good either. So, so it could be a weird Thursday night game, but I'll have to go with the Eagles until I see Darch play a little bit better than he did against the Saints.
Oh, it's tough. Do you know what? Because it's in New York, I'm going to go for the Giants to come within a score. Screw it. I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to go bold. I got a Thursday night game, low scoring. I did the same thing with the Niners last week. I was like, low scoring game. It could be close. I'm going to pick the Niners at work, so I'm going to do the same.
Niners are a lot better than the Giants, though. I'd say.
Yeah. True. But I feel like the Giants can disrupt the Philadelphia offensive line. They probably can stop the run. Which Saquon's not been. He's always like 3 yards per carry or whatever. This so far this season has not been great. So yeah, I feel like the elements are there for a little bit of an upset. Maybe not to win, but I think it could be a close game. So I'm going to go the Giants because why not? Right, we'll go on to Sunday's games now. We'll start off with the game that's on Channel 5. The Ravens host the Rams. This is free to air in the UK. It's also on DAZN or wherever we want to watch it as well. So it's not the blacked out game. Unless stated, all the games are available to stream on DAZN. The Lamar Jackson did not practice yesterday. We'll see what happens there, whether he plays or not. Right now, the Rams are favored by 7.5 points. So if sounds like the bookies don't think Lamar Jackson's going to play, 7.5 point away favourites. I know you love the Rams. Are you going to pick them to cover here?
Oh, I love the Rams. Definitely going to pick them to cover. This is one of those. If you pick the Ravens and Lamar plays, you look like a genius. But everything tells you he's not going to play. I've got to go for the Rams. I've been interested to see what the spread was if he was healthy. But yeah, I'll go for Rams. Ravens defense is still all over the place. They've just lost the second best pass rusher. I'll go for the Rams to put up some points and to win by double digits probably.
Yeah, it's a crazy one because I think the Ravens buys after this week as well. So if the Ravens going to buy 1 and 5, then if they can somehow win this game, then you go into the bye at 2 and 4. They'll probably feel a little bit revitalized. If you lose this game, it's gonna be tough for Baltimore.
I don't think Cooper Rush can win this game.
No, well, that's the thing. I'm going to go for the Rams. I am going to go for the Rams. I think.
Yeah.
What the Ravens, obviously, again, similar defensive front to Houston, and like Houston just dominated that game on Sunday. I think it'll be more of the same. I am going to go for the Rams here. All right, we'll stick in the NFC. We'll go to Carolina. They host the Cowboys. The 2-3 Panthers obviously getting a second win last week against the Dolphins. Bryce Young, another fourth quarter comeback. Fair play to him. The Cowboys offense is great. The Cowboys defense sucks. That's probably the reason why they're 2-2-1. One of the only teams that are at 500 after 5 games, which is rare. 3.5 point favourites. Dallas going to Carolina. Obviously, Carolina are frisky. Dallas' defense are terrible. Points this game. Points. It's just whether Dallas will cover or not.
Points and red zone chaos with Scott Hansen. It feels like for this game. I can't remember. We disagree and agree on certain quarterbacks. I know Herbert. We disagree on. Are you a Dak fan as well, or are you anti-Dak? There's a quarterback you're anti that I like.
Gino. Which I've been right on this year.
Do you like Dak? Do you like Dak though? I can't remember.
Yeah. I called Dak my MVP 2 years ago. I thought he was brilliant.
Okay, yeah. He's playing he's playing very well.
This year he's been brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been brilliant. Yeah, I went Cowboys on our pod as one of my picks, and probably one of my more confident picks as well. I think the offense is playing really well. I think the Panthers obviously good comeback last week, but I think they might be the worst team in the NFL still.
Really?
I still think they might be. I think there's a lot of luck involved in some issues from the other teams causing themselves. Whereas I know the Cowboys defense is bad, but I think the offense could score 30 points and make it difficult. So I'll go Cowboys.
I think they're an interesting one because the way they start games, it is like the worst team in the league. But
they're very bad, yeah.
Yeah, but like half-time adjustments or whatever, like that team grows into a game really well. They're actually quite good at adjusting. It's just their scripted stuff is terrible. Or Bryce Young just maybe stays on the first read too long on. But Bryce. I think he's the least of their problems. If I'm being completely honest with you, I think he's playing quite well for what he's got. If I'm being honest, he lost his 2 favourite receivers. McMillan's been great, but realistically, when your second best target is Hunter Renfrow coming off the practice squad, then that's probably I think he's probably the least of the problems. I'm going to go Dallas as well. I just felt that they're the better team. But again, I think it could be close, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Carolina win. And again, a bit risky going for a home underdog. But I'm going to go Dallas away from home here. Right, this one should be fun. The Colts host the Cardinals. The Colts are 4-1, and rightly 6.5 point favourites. Where they've been playing the last couple of weeks, they're brilliant in the trenches. Both sides of the ball, they're brilliant. Cardinals, well, they're an interesting one. the Cardinals are could quite easily be 5-0 right now, if we're being honest. Every game's been a one-score game. They've played it, but they've had 2 games where they've fallen away in the fourth quarter. They almost blew a lead to the Saints in the fourth quarter. And they've lost in shocking fashion to both the Cardinals and then the Titans last week. I can't get I think the clock is definitely ticking for Jonathan Gannon and probably Kyler Murray as well. We'll see what happens next year with that, but it doesn't sound like they're too keen on him in the future. The Colts are 6.5 point favourites. It makes sense. Do you think that's a decent bet there?
Yeah, I'm going to go for the Colts. They've done very, very well this season against bad teams and put up big points and being pretty ruthless on going for more points and fourth downs and etc. Which, to be fair, Steichen's always done that. I'm going to go for Colts. I'm not saying the Cardinals are a bad team, but I don't think they played well. I think they're probably more likely to be 0-5 than they are 5-0 as well. It just feels like that sort of team to me. And Josh, who's part of the network, hates Kyler Murray, and I've always argued and defended Kyler Murray. But he's had his worst season as a pro this year. He has not looked very good at all. And I don't really think, Jonathan Gannon's letting the pressure get to him if you saw how he reacted last week. So, I'll go for the Colts and pick them against teams I don't think are very good until someone beats them.
Absolutely. I'm going to go for the Colts too for the exact same reasons. Okay, the main game on Sky this week, the one that's blacked out on DAZN, sees the Jags host the Seahawks. The Jags are 1.5 point favourites after their winner against Kansas City on Monday night. Seattle, again, brilliant first couple of weeks. Obviously, unlucky to fall behind against the Bucs last week after that costly Sam Darnold interception. This is a tough one for me. I know you love the Jags, so I assume you're going for the Jags.
No, I'm going for the Seahawks.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about the Jags. Every game feels a bit like a fluke. As someone who's put them to win the division, kind of really. It's not a gambling thing, but it's like you win prize if you predict the most things right. So you got division winners, and you don't put any money in, but it's just a work thing, and the winner gets the most points and gets the prize then at the end. I'm a bit worried about my Jags prediction because every game on offense just feels like complete luck, and the other team obviously is. Every team against them has had their most turnovers in any game in the last 2 seasons against them, except for this week, obviously. So it just feels a bit random. So I'm going to go for the Seahawks. I think Darnold's playing obviously much better than Trevor at the moment, and Mike McDonald versus Liam Cohen's a hell of a fun matchup. But I think the other side of the ball, I think that the Seahawks should be able to win that battle. I think so. I'll go for Seattle. I was really impressed by Sam last week against the Bucs.
So that surprised me because obviously I know you're quite hard on the Jags defense. They and they're finally getting good offensive line play as well. They're finally running the football well. That's another thing as well. Like it's very surprising. I said this on the podcast last week. I was like, realistically, I think the thing that's playing worse on that offense is Trevor Lawrence at the minute, and then he goes and has that game-winning drive last week. So he
didn't throw the ball well all game though. It's all rushes, all scrambles, and then 2 good throws. Yeah.
I think it's a telling sign that you've now got receivers. Admittedly, Brian Thomas has not played great, but then last week he was really good. You got a run game there. You got an offensive line, and Lawrence still isn't looking that great. I think that is a bit of a concern, but they're winning games. So I'm going to go Seattle as well. So I am going to join you. I thought you'd go Jacksonville, but no, I think this is going to be a really good game. I'm really looking forward to watching this game.
This is a good game on TV.
I'm glad it is the one on TV, and then 1.5 points again. It's a pick 'em, really, isn't it? So I'm going to go for the Seahawks here. Okay, we go to Miami now. The Dolphins host the Chargers. It's Tua versus Herbert, which is always a great weekend for me. They're 2-1. The Dolphins over the Chargers in their 3 meetings. the two quarterbacks in their careers. The Dolphins obviously 1-4 after falling behind against the Panthers last week. The Chargers 3-2 after losing their last two games since the offensive line got incredibly banged up. For the Chargers are 4.5 point favourites, which I think is about right the way the Dolphins have been playing recently. The game's in Miami, which makes this one an interesting one. Obviously, West Coast coming over and playing an early game in Miami. Which way are you going here?
You know where I'm going. Chargers. Tua's terrible. Herbert's a king. Yeah, I like the Darren Waller story. That's pretty fun. But yeah, I think the Chargers need to win and cover the spread here, like to get their season back on track. Otherwise, it could be another complete lost year. I think it'll be quite a messy game. First half wouldn't surprise me if it's close and all over the place, because I think the Dolphins will get pressure on Herbert. But I think, yeah, towards the end, second half, they'll kind of pull away a little bit and win the game by a touchdown or something like that. Herbert's been very good in game-winning drive situations this season, so I think it'll be close like that.
And Tua's been the opposite. So
yeah, Tua's been the opposite. Obviously, no Tyreek.
He played really well last week. Last week he was brilliant. Like last week he was really good. Like it's just the problem is they couldn't stop the run. Like it's 2 games in a row they've allowed 200 yards on the ground. That's been the issue. The Dolphins' offense was really good last week. They couldn't even run the football. Like Devon Achane had like 16 yards, and he still played quite well. But yeah,
Ollie Gordon was like negative yardage or something. And my friend had him in his fantasy league to win the league and lost by like 1 point. Sorry, to win the week. And I think Ollie Gordon got him -3 or 4 yards or something for that game.
Yeah, they were terrible. And it was all on Tua last week, and he played really well, which was an encouraging sign because when it's all been on him the first couple of games, he's not played well. So, but again, it's the Panthers. So what can you take out of that? I'm going to go Miami to come within the 4, but I think the Chargers will win. I think it'll be close. It's obviously a Miami West Coast team coming into the East Coast. Dolphins don't really lose at home either. That's another thing. They've been terrible away from home in the last couple of years, but they don't. So I think it'll be close. And then part of me just if Tua has a good game, I think it'll be good for his confidence as well, because a lot of the people are starting to doubt him at the minute. Not the fact that he's good, it's just a contract, isn't it? It's just like with the way the organisation's going, it's a bit of an interesting one. So I'm going to go to Miami. I think the Chargers will win the game, but I think it'll be closer than people think. Okay, we'll go over to New Orleans now. They host the Patriots, fresh off their win against the Bills. The Patriots are 3.5 point favourites on the road. This one is available to stream on Sky Sports Plus if you're interested in watching it on Sky. The Patriots again looked terrible for the first couple of weeks, but the last couple of weeks they've really hit a groove now. Turnovers have come down. Drake May's playing great. I know you love Drake May, so I'm assuming you go New England here.
Love Drake May. Yeah, offense has actually been good. Statistically, it's just the turnovers,
season. Isn't it?
And they played really well. Been able to move the ball. I'm going to pick the same spread I picked on our pod rather than go different. So I'm actually going to go Saints. I do like Drake May. But anyone who's followed me on Twitter for a while, I thought Spencer Rattler was going to be Caleb Williams back in the day. And I still think he is a very good quarterback and probably a 20th in the league.
Well.
He'll be fine, I think, if the Saints go with him. So, yeah, I'm going to go for them. I think it's a bit of a kind of, you've had the biggest win of your career. You've had your biggest win of the season. You're all hyped up. You go on the road to the Saints, who've started games pretty well on defense. I think I'm just going to go Saints plus 3.5, stick to what I did on the pod.
I'll go the other way then. I'll go New England. I just feel like they played their best game of the season. Obviously, the defense is a lot healthier now than it was. Christian Gonzalez came back last week and played really well. I'm surprised, but like that, the weapons have been pretty reliable for him as well, for Drake May as well, which has been a nice thing. If Ramondre Stevenson's been running well, if he can just keep hold of the football, then I think they're on to something. The Patriots, I think their schedule's pretty easy as well. I'll be shocked if they're not a playoff team. So I feel like if playoff teams should win this game. So I don't know, the Saints in a close game. I don't know. I'm gonna go New England, but I'm not feeling confident about it at all, to be honest with you. I've gone for quite a few away teams this week, and then the early slate finishes in Pittsburgh. The Steelers off their bye from the Dublin game. They host the Browns. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel going up against the Steelers defense. That's an interesting thing to watch. Obviously, the Steelers defense terrible the first 2 weeks of the season, but the 2 games afterwards brilliant. Won them the 2 games against New England and Minnesota. They're now 3-1. They come up a bye. They're 5.5-point favourites. Which way are you going here?
Yeah, tough spread, but I've gone with the Steelers. I think we could get what we got last week with Jackson Dart, where Gabriel looked okay last week, goes into this game on the road, tough defense, tough defensive coordinator or play caller, and then maybe gets a little bit overwhelmed, maybe turns the ball over a little bit like Dart did last week against the Saints. So, yeah, I don't love the Steelers' long-term aspect. I think any AFC team that plays them in the playoffs is going to feel great about that. But I think in this game that they'll win. I think their defense will cause Gabriel some problems.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Pittsburgh 2. Okay, we'll go over to the 9 p.m. games. Only 3 this week, which is a bit of a shame. I like it when you have a bit of a longer late slate. It starts in Vegas, where the Raiders host the Titans. Battle of 2 1-4 teams. This one is available to stream on Sky Sports Plus as well as DAZN. The Raiders, despite their pretty terrible couple of weeks, are 4.5-point favourites over the Titans. You've got their first win last week. Which way are you going here?
I'm going to go with the Titans. Cam Ward's playing really well. I think Brian Callahan is a terrible coach. But Cam Ward's playing well. Jeffrey Simmons is playing really well. Probably someone we should have mentioned as a trade candidate as well. But yeah, I'll go for the Titans. Raiders are playing awful on all 3 phases. Gino's throwing too many picks. Defense is actually pretty bad as well, to be honest. And the play caller, Chip Kelly, is having a nightmare. So, yeah, I'll go for the Titans after they get that fluky win last week. Bit of momentum for them.
Yeah, I think it'll be a field day for the 2 defensive tackles for the Titans because that Raiders offensive line is horrendous. So I'm going to go for the Titans too. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Raiders are terrible, which is interesting to see what happens after the season there because obviously Pete Carroll was a bit of a stopgap guy anyway. So, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I'm going to go to Titans. Again, I thought Brian Callahan would be fired 2 weeks ago and he could win 2 games in a row now. But again, I agree with you. He's not a very good coach whatsoever.
No, he'll get fired eventually.
yeah, eventually. But yeah, we'll keep him in his job for now. There's another game with Sky Sports Plus. Both of them available. You just click which one you want to watch. This week, the Packers off a bye. They host the Bengals. Obviously, it's Joe Flacco's first start for the Bengals. The Packers are 14.5-point favourites. They're 2-1 after the sort of poor last couple of weeks after their great start to the season. Bengals 2-3. Again, if they can somehow win this game, they're at 500 and we'll see what happens there. But Green Bay shouldn't lose this game. It's whether they win by 15 points or not, isn't it?
Yeah, they definitely shouldn't lose this game. Big spreads are always hard to pick in the NFL. They normally go nowhere near or team wins by 30. But yeah, I've gone for the Packers to cover. New quarterback in there. He's having to memorize the plays in basically 48 hours nearly, it feels like, for him. He only got there for 1 training session so far. Yeah, I think the Packers, I'm one of the people that, we said on our pod that everyone thought they're the best team in the NFL and then now come down to earth. I'm still one of the people that thinks they're right up there. So I'm going to go for Packers to cover.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially for bye as well. That's a big factor. Yeah, they're going to come out and blow the Bengals aside, I think. And then the final game, the main game on Sky this week. This was also on 5 Action as well, so it's available to watch for free in the UK. The Bucks host the Rams. Both teams 4-1. The Rams and Niners. The Bucks host the Niners. Both teams 4-1. This is one of the games of the week as well. I think it's great. I'm glad it's the main game on Sky this week. Bucks 3.5-point favourites at home. The Niners. Brock Purdy didn't practice yesterday. Jordan Jennings didn't practice. Ricky Pearsall didn't practice. Thursdays if they don't practice again today, then they're probably not going to play. If they practice today, limited, they might play. We'll see what happens. If none of them practice today, they're not playing. And then George Kittle sounds like he's going to be out for another week as well. So injury-wise for the Niners is not looking great. But they won last week, and Coach Shanahan's a great coach. The Bucks are favoured in this one for a reason, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. I think they should probably not bother playing Purdy. They're playing well as a team. Get him fully healthy before he comes back. They've got a very easy schedule. They've already won a couple of games. Maybe people thought they wouldn't. So, yeah, I think they should just rest him. I think, Mac Jones is doing enough to keep them competitive with that defense. But yeah, Bucks definitely rightful favourites, and that's the team I'm going with. Really like the Bucks. they're still a little bit lucky. They need to play a little bit better on. Actually, weirdly, they need to play a little bit better on offense. The offensive line needs to play a little bit better. There's a lot of crazy getting sacked, scrambling out of a sack, turning around, throwing the ball 30 yards, and things like that they need to kind of clean up a little bit. But the defense, once their players are back on the secondary, I think is very good. So, yeah, I love the Bucks this year, so I'm going to go for them to win and to cover the spread.
Me too. Okay, Sunday Night Football. This one's surprised me that the Chiefs are favourites in this game. I can't lie. Sunday Night Football. The Chiefs host the Lions. Chiefs favored by 2.5 points against the 4-1 Lions. Does that surprise you?
It only surprised me because they were underdogs to the Ravens. The Chiefs
that's what I mean. Yeah.
It doesn't actually surprise me statistically when you look at the numbers, but and what the bookies have done with previous years of Chiefs home games. But yeah, the fact they were underdogs to the Eagles and then the Ravens, they're not underdogs now, does surprise me a little bit. But yeah, it's mainly due down anyone who knows the bookies. But it's mainly offensive numbers and analytical data they use, and then obviously nearer the game, it's if someone bets X amount on one side, they'll move the line, so people bet on the other side. So yeah, it surprised me a bit, but I think it's just purely, the Chiefs' offensive numbers over the last 2 weeks have been really good, and I think they need the game more than the Lions. So that's probably why it's like that.
Which way are you going? 2.5 points.
I've gone with I'll go with the same I did on our pod. So I've gone with the Chiefs. The offense is basically back, which is exciting. 3 weeks in a row now, Mahomes has led their league in EPA per drop back. I think they'll make a trade for running back as well. And last game, I think I was much more disappointed with the Eagles and Chargers games than I was last week. Last week was one of those every year. It happens every year where you're like, the Chiefs have just smashed themselves in the face 4 times and lost this game somehow. So yeah, I'll go for the Chiefs. But if you're a Lions fan, come out, start the game 14 points up at the start. I don't think the Chiefs will come back with kind of some of the mistakes they're making. But if the Chiefs hang around, I think Mahomes will win this big game for them at home. They don't want to go to 2-4.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I said it pre-season. I think if the Chiefs get to the bye at 500, I think that'll be okay. Then in terms of playoffs, you might end up more than 500 because the schedule just get a bit easier. Brutal first 6 games, brutal. I'm gonna go for the Chiefs as well. I think
that surprised me. I thought you were locked on for the Lions.
Yeah, well, do you know what? Yeah, no, I think they're great. I do. I just the occasion. I think the Chiefs need this game, as you say. I think that is a big factor, and I have picked the Chiefs ahead every game this season, so I'm just continuing what I've done. Obviously, I've been let down. Maybe
just the Eagles game.
yeah, true. Yeah, true. But because obviously the Ravens game was not what expected. But I'm going to go for the Chiefs again at Arrowhead. I don't pick against them at Arrowhead. I'm doing it. Why not? And then there's 2 Monday Night Football games this week, both involving teams off a bye as well, which is quite interesting. The first one's the one that's called by Chris Fowler, Dan Orlovsky, and Lewis Riddick. Sees the Falcons off a bye 2-2 host the Bills. The Bills are 4.5 point favourites going to Atlanta. Don't know which Falcons team is going to turn up. It might be the one that got blown out by the Panthers. It might be the one that played really well on defense the other 3 weeks. But yeah, again, Bills didn't look great last week, so bit of a tough one as 4.5 point favourites on the road. Which way are you going?
Yeah, definitely a tough one spread wise. I'm going for the Bills. Still really like the Bills. Offense isn't playing very well. They need to have a look at that internally. But I'm not a big believer in the Falcons team, to be honest. So I'll go for the Bills on Monday night. I don't think Josh will lose 2 primetime games back to back. So I'll go with them winning by probably more than a touchdown for me. I'm quite confident in the Bills in this game.
See, I think the Bills might win, but I think it'll be close. I'm going to go for the Falcons here. Again, off a bye, big factor, and also like the Bills' defense is bad. Like it is not great. It is really not. And the Falcons have got the weapons. Bijan Robinson's probably been one of the best players in football the first couple of weeks. He's catching like 10 balls a game and going for like 90 yards a game. Like if the Bills can't stop him, the Falcons are going to be in this game. I think it just comes down to what we get out of Beecham Robinson. So I'm going to go for the Falcons to come within the 4 points, and we'll see what happens there. And then the last game sees this game is the one that Buck and April will be calling. Kicks off an hour after the first one. It sees Washington host Chicago. The Commanders off their win against the Chargers. Obviously, Jaden Daniels came back and looked great last week. They're 4.5 point favourites against the Bears, who are off a bye. Played pretty well going into the bye after a dodgy first 2 weeks. This one should be a fun one, shouldn't it?
Yeah, this one should be a fun one. Should be some points scored, and yeah, pretty good game actually. One of the better games of the week. Look forward to and watch, especially if you don't, if you're neutral. This is a fun one for everyone to watch. In terms of the pick, I'm going to go for the Commanders. I'm not too confident about that one. I wouldn't be confident on either side, but yeah, I'll go for the Commanders. I think Jaden looked pretty good last week. Hopefully another week of getting healthier. And Terry McLaurin, might play, it looks like. So yeah, I'm going to go for Commanders to cover. 2 4.5s on a Monday. Unlikely I'll win both, but I'll go for 4.5.
I'm going to go for Washington too. I just feel like that I don't trust the Bears' defense, and Washington's defense has been a little bit of a nice surprise, and they're running the football really well, with Bill and everything as well. So yeah, I'm a bit high on Washington at the minute. I'm higher on them than I thought I would be this time. At the start of the season as well, so I'm gonna join in there for Washington, and then the Vikings and the Texans are the 2 teams on the byes this week. Right, that's it. That's going to do it for today's episode of the All 10 Yards NFL podcast. Week 6 is shaping up to be another exciting one. Again, some great games this week, and I can't wait for Sunday as well. I'm going to be there on Sunday at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So if you're there, please do say hello to me. I'll be in on the ground for a couple of hours before the game starts. It's always such a special occasion seeing these games here in the UK, and there are some cracking games on TV this week as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. A huge thank you to you, Liam, for joining me today once again. It's always great chatting football with you, mate. It's a pleasure. And if you enjoyed today's, be sure to check out the Go for 2 podcast as well. A couple of podcasts a week is great to listen to, and it's on YouTube now as well, I've noticed, which is pretty cool. And yeah, if you are new to the podcast, please do take a moment to leave us a quick rating or review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really helps more UK fans discover the pod. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well, so you never miss an episode. Because just make sure to get notified, because again, over 90% of the viewers of this podcast aren't subscribed. So if you have enjoyed the show, hit the button. It really does make a difference for us. Right, that's it. I'll be back towards the end of the week next week. It'll be a bit of a later upload next week to look ahead to week 7 and the final London game between the Rams and the Jags. Until then, enjoy all the action this Sunday, and I'll see you next time on the 14 Yards NFL podcast.